the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stewart Willis. He is president of Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax, and our special guest, Spike Spangle, radio host, television personality, and all-around great guy. Nice to have you.
Thank you both for letting me be on here. Yeah, I host your weekly radio show, KTAR, KFYI. We do that for an hour. Man, so thank you for letting me out of the booth. I appreciate it.
Well, you know what? Just be on your best behavior.
Okay, all right. I will.
Well, I'm so excited to have both of you on the show. So, Stewart, wow, what a great episode we're going to have today. We have not talked about this in a little while, but obviously there's different phases of retirement. So I would love to just jump right in and just start talking about the accumulation phase, which we devote to our younger viewers in the audience today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we call ages 20 to 50 the accumulation phase. And what we mean by that is this isn't really the time that you need to throttle back your risk to manage risk per se. If you're just building up, that's when you basically go into full equity positions. Yeah. So long as you're comfortable not moving it out, right? If you're not going to, get nervous. And just remember, you've got a lot of time. At age 20 years old, you've got 30, 40 years before you're done working, right? So you need to be fully invested, whether you're buying into the S&P 500 or QQQ, one of the NASDAQ funds, these index funds. It's okay to be full equity. Now, don't get silly and go out and buy crypto or, any of these kind of, fad investments. Yeah. And look, I have clients that have made, tens of millions of dollars in crypto, but it's not a solid financial plan.
Right.
So that's number one. Number two, most of you, if you're working out there and have access to a company plan, I think it's really important to make sure that you take advantage of it. Because look, I'll have clients all the time that'll, their kids will come to me and say, hey, we really want to invest with you, and we can afford, about $400 a month or $500 a month or whatever that number is. And I'll say, well, does your company have a plan? And they'll say, well, yeah, and they match 5%. Well, here's the thing. I'm not matching anybody's money, right? Right? Because we're a fiduciary, right? We charge to manage funds. It's not a free service. So it's kind of the opposite, right? But at the end of the day, take advantage of that free money. If you don't take the free money, it's a massive mistake. You got to do it, right? Take advantage. The other thing, we were talking about before is to make sure you're being smart when it comes to taxes and debt.
Right. I wanted to ask you about that because when I was a young fella coming out of Arizona State University and the communication school from Cronkite here, right here in Tempe, I didn't know, we didn't really have tax diversion plan beyond the 401k. There are now Roth 401ks inside. What is your feeling? You are the president of Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax. Do we want the 20 and 30-year-olds starting to put money into the Roths? Is there any disadvantage to using the Roth at a young age?
Well, look, here's the thing. There's going to be a huge temptation to want to contribute into the regular 401k or thrift savings or 403b. I'll use an example. I have a great friend of mine, a client of mine here in town that's a basketball coach, and he works at a high school. He's a coach, and he's got a few kids, and they're all dependents. And I was looking at his plan, and he was putting all this money away into these, this teacher plan, this 403b, tax deferred. Well, with all of his deductions, all of the exemptions that he had, it really was like paying about 10% tax. So does it really make sense to defer taxes to when taxes are going up? Right?
So you're saying in our 20s and 30s, we're starting out, we're probably not at as high an income level as we'll be later in life. But what about the tax growth? I mean, the advantage of it is that you'll be able to take out that growth tax-free 20, 30 years down the road.
Which is why you go into a Roth, right? So putting money away tax-deferred doesn't make any sense, in my opinion, at that age, because you're going to have 20 or 30 years left for it to grow and to grow tax-free. So if you have access to a 401k Roth, thrift savings plan Roth, a 403b Roth, any sort of those deferred compensation Roths, take advantage of it. The time is on your side. That money will compound for a long time, tax-free rather than tax-deferred. Because all tax-deferred mean is a tax time bomb, and it's going to be blowing up in your face when you don't want it to.
Well, Stewart, obviously we're talking about ages 20 to 50. Let's talk a little bit about life insurance if we could. What are your thoughts on that for that age group?
Yeah, so I think life insurance plays a really important role, especially if you have a family, right? Buying life insurance just to make the life insurance guy happy doesn't make any sense. You want it to serve a purpose. And there are two main purposes of life insurance. One is building tax-free death benefit for your survivors, for your spouse, your kids, to make sure they're taken care of. Or maybe it even makes sense to look at the tax-free income that you can create as well. Now, I think the accumulation phase is a little bit early to start looking at those kind of cash value accumulation accounts, which some people called the IULs or Index Universal Life. I would probably hold off on that. But for a death benefit, absolutely. You want to make sure your family's going to be okay and that they'll, don't have to make desperate decisions when you're
What
gone.
about the life insurance, though? That oftentimes are employers, if they're a larger organization, they'll offer life insurance plans there, the value, or you prefer outside the organization?
Well, so the ones that are included inside most of your company plans are, they're temporary plans, they're term plans, and they expire when you quit. So, it's not a solid plan. The problem with that is that if you become unhealthy and you leave employment, you may not be able to be insured again. So I think owning a private plan usually makes sense, whether it's a term plan that is, throughout your kids' so long as they're dependent on you, I think it's an important.
This might sound really silly, but I have talked to some younger folks at other universities as well. They don't want to be piling all their savings into these 401ks because they realize they're not going to stay at that employer. These are portable. They're allowed to be brought with them, right?
Yeah, and if you've worked at a company and you've contributed for years and you have more than $100,000 in your 401k or thrift savings plan, and we call those zombie plans where you've kind of forgotten about them and haven't looked at them. If you have concerns and you want to make sure that they're being appropriately invested and they aren't just forgotten about, they're not an afterthought, then what we're offering is that complimentary portfolio review. We'll take a look at whether or not it makes sense to update what you have to get it properly invested and to have a professional money management team oversee what it does. But if you have questions, give us a call at 833-602-7526 for that complimentary portfolio review. Even easier, pick up your phone, click on that QR code. It'll take you to our website. We'd be glad to help.
Stewart, thank you so much. Spike, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is on your screen, 833-602-7526. We know that you're in the viewing audience today and that you have a lot of questions for Stewart about how to plan your perfect retirement. We are talking about the different phases of retirement today. Perhaps you wonder where you fit in. Remember, you can also pick up your smartphone, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to Asset Preservation, Wealth and Tax landing page. You can schedule your time with Stewart accordingly. We're going to take a very short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to dive into the next one, the catch-up phase. We'll be right back momentarily.
We know the market is going to get worse from here. This is the biggest monthly decline in 10 years. People's 401ks took a major hit.
Well, my investments are tanking. My retirement isn't going as planned. I can't believe I let my kid talk me into buying crypto. I mean, what is that anyway?
This was the fourth worst contraction in history.
So how are you two doing?
Your financial future doesn't have to be uncertain. I'm Stewart Willis with Asset Preservation, Wealth and Tax. If you have amassed a nest egg, it's time for a financial advisor to help you reach your retirement goals. We are in one of the greatest tax windows in history, so it makes sense to take advantage of this tax discount while you can with your partners in retirement. All of our expert advisors, CPAs, and enrolled agents are fiduciaries that specialize in retirement planning, tax mitigation, estate planning, and more. Plan your retirement right. Call right now for your own complimentary portfolio review and tax analysis.
Well, welcome back to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stewart Willis. He is the president of Asset Preservation, Wealth and Tax, as well as Spike Spangle, our special guest, radio host, and television personality extraordinaire.
We're here on KTAR, KFYI. We do the radio show every single week, but thank you for letting me join your desk.
And live events. You and Stewart did the live events
Oh my gosh,
well.
The live events have been fantastic. You did a mailing. You sold out the first three. The next one that you offered, that one sold out as well. It's unbelievable. unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm just so excited to be able to do live events again now. COVID's over. I'm not scared anymore. I'm just. I
didn't mind you doing the live events. Just you got to stop kissing everybody on the cheek.
Yeah, I made it weird, and I apologize. So I'm sorry. But no, look, it's funny because we were at our new Scottsdale office on Scottsdale Road and Frank Lloyd Wright. We're right next to the Capitol Grill, and so we're doing live events over at Capitol Grill for our Scottsdale office, and it's just the response has been tremendous. Literally, we sent out our normal notifications, and literally the first 2 events sold out within literally a day of people receiving notifications.
That's
and
fantastic.
the third one, which was a Saturday, is packed, almost full, and we had to add a fourth one on the following Tuesday, and that one's just about sold out.
And by the way, I keep saying sold out. I think I forced you to say there is no cost to it, but you just got to go to assetpreservation.com, or you can call the phone number, right, if you want to find out more information?
Yeah, if you're curious about the live events, assetpreservation.com, we're there. And you're right, I'm not Taylor Swift. I'm not selling out anything.
Oh, my gosh.
But you know what? There's no more
Tickets are
room.
crazy for
I should
T-Swift.
charge $1 just to say I'm selling out.
Yeah, no. But the Arizona Broadway Theater, up in Scottsdale, said they've been fantastic. Let's keep to it, though. This catch-up phase.
Yes,
phase,
let's talk
not
about
phrase,
that.
the catch-up phase.
The catch-up phase. Wow, Stewart, what is that?
Yeah, so once you turn 50 years old, it's for the people that say, hey, I realize that I didn't put away enough, right? I didn't start early enough. Let's go catch up. And look, it's a very popular thing to do. You realize you're behind a little bit, behind the 8 ball a little bit, or maybe you're not going to have that, those funds that you're hoping to in retirement. Well, you're allowed to add this year an additional $7,500 to your maximum contribution. Now, generally, that's not going to help when it comes to matching, because they're usually only matching, companies are only matching 3%, 4%, 5% at most.
Okay.
So you're not going to get additional match, but it allows you to put away that money into your deferred plan, either tax deferred or a Roth plan, which we highly suggest as well.
You just hit on. I was just going to ask you. So let's say for 2 or 3 decades you've been working, you're at 50, but now you want to do catch-up contributions. You're making an even better wage. Do you want to split that one off maybe? Can you do it 2 separate accounts where one goes into the tax deferred, one goes into the Roth 401k?
So it all depends on where people fall inside their tax brackets. Just remember, I really believe that the Roth, the 401k Roth and the TSP Roth make the most sense. I think it makes sense long term. I think you've got to do it, right? Because you've got to bite the bullet. We are in one of the most efficient tax windows in history, and it's going away if Congress doesn't act. So we've got 3 years left if they don't act, and you've got to take advantage of where we are now.
But if you can afford your bills, you can afford your lifestyle, put it over into the taxable account, which means you're going to be putting on your wages for that year to be taxed.
Yeah.
But the advantage is no RMDs. You get all of the growth tax-free down at the end. I think we really need to try to create a tax-free channel down the road.
Well, and that absolutely leads us into the next phase, right? The asset preservation phase. Now, I think they named this phase after my company. I'm not quite sure. Or maybe I changed the name of the phase to my company's name. Either way, it worked out. But age 59 and a half, tons of stuff start to happen here at age 59 and a half. It's awesome because for those of you that have done what you were told to do, you put away all your money tax deferred into your thrift savings plan, your IRAs, all of your retirement plans. You now generally have options at most companies or most institutions to roll out your retirement plan without actually disrupting it. What we mean by that is at 59 and a half, you can roll out your 401k to an IRA and then convert it to Roth. So if, for example, let's say, for example, you're in a 22% tax bracket. Well, I don't make a big distinction between 22 and 24% tax bracket. They're just so close. And knowing that 22% bracket in the future is going to be 25 to 28%, why not pay it now? Pay it now, let it grow tax-free before you start Social Security, and I think it makes way more sense.
Let me ask about dollar amounts, though, okay? Because you're talking about 20 and 22%. That's hard to conceptualize. I've got $500,000 in a tax-deferred 401k, $700,000. Are you saying I should be rolling all of that out, which means I got to pay the taxes on that right now?
Well, I think what you need to do is have a plan, right? To think through. And look, I own a tax office. It's all part of asset preservation. It is a nightmare of work. I am not, I look like a zombie. I age myself, constantly here. And I am telling you, I'm getting older by owning a tax office. It's going to end my life sooner. But you know what it does? It gives tons of great information to our clients on how to create an efficient plan, right? I'm not doing it to make money on a tax office. We lose about $100,000 a year running a tax. It's the most inefficient financial thing ever.
You talk about this all the time. Why do you think there are so few financial advisors talking about Roth conversions and doing this with the taxes?
Well, I think that most advisors are hesitant to talk about Roth conversions for a couple reasons. Number one, most of their firms prohibit them from giving tax advice, and for good reason, because most of them don't understand it, right? I always say for the first decade of my career, I feel like I was faking it, like I didn't understand tax. Well, once I delivered, thousands of tax returns, I started to get it. I started to understand. And oftentimes, I have to untrain and retrain our CPAs to think the way I think, right? And I think it's important to understand that, a financial advisor, think about this. If you look last year, say the market was down 20%, right? The S&P 500 down about 20%.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's pretend a financial advisor manages $100 million and the market lost 20%. His $100 million turned into $80 million that he manages. He just took a 20% pay cut, right? And do you think he's now going to say, hey, go ahead and convert to Roth, pay 22% tax? Well, now his paycheck's down another 22%, so he's down 44% in that paycheck. It's just a hard thing for someone to expect to be able to do. These financial advisors are under tremendous amounts of pressure to perform by their bosses. They have numbers to hit, and it isn't going to help when they have to withdraw the taxes out of these plans as well. So Uncle Sam wants to get paid. It's not just a, hey, convert it, because not everybody has that money sitting in the bank to pay the tax bill. It's a good, efficient way to do it.
And you're not a fan of taking it from the fund itself?
Well, listen, I think we look at the options. If you have options outside of your money, because look, here's what you want. Ideally, going into retirement, you want 100% of your money in a Roth. Now, it's not possible with most cases, but I don't care if you have a Roth checking account, a Roth money market account. If you can spend that money tax-free, just remember, we're entering this higher interest rate environment now. Well, nobody cared about interest on your bank accounts for the last decade because there's been none. Well, now we're starting to see, we have a 4.7% as of this filming, 4.7%, a money market account. Now that varies every day; it changes, right? It could be different by tomorrow, but all of a sudden, people are earning interest on money they haven't earned interest on. So what does that do? That adds to their tax bracket, right? So if you've got all of this money in a brokerage account, well, it may make sense to use that account to pay the tax bill on the conversion. So I appreciate the question. I think it makes sense. But the important thing is to make sure that you have options. And oftentimes with these plans, these work plans, even thrift savings plans, they're moving to these target date funds, which are a whole nother issue.
Wait a second. I know that we've got to go out to break right now, but you just hit on a sore spot. Can we hit target date funds when we come back?
Absolutely, Spike. We can definitely do that. And I know, Stewart, there's a very special offer you want to present. Let's talk about what that is before we open the phones.
Absolutely. So if you're 59 and a half or older and you are in this asset preservation phase, well, maybe it makes sense to consider whether or not rolling out your 401k and your thrift savings plan over to an IRA so you can convert to Roth and have it professionally managed. Maybe that makes sense. There are some downsides, but you want to know whether it will benefit you or not. If you want to take a look at it and see whether or not it actually helps you, give us a call at 833-602-7526, or even easier, pick up your phone, click on that QR code. It'll take you to assetpreservation.com, and it'll click on complimentary portfolio review. We'd be glad to help, but you got to take action.
Stewart, thank you so much. Spike, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number is on your screen. 833-602-7526 or 833-602-PLAN. We're going to take a very short commercial break here on the Asset Preservation Hour. But when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about, I think, target date funds, and then we're going to get through our final phase, which is going to be the decumulation phase of retirement. Stay tuned. We'll be right back momentarily.
People are really concerned about outliving their money. inflation, taxes, volatility in the markets, legacy. That's what people are really concerned about. Listen, I love what I do. When a client of mine can know with total confidence that they're going to be okay. At Asset Preservation, that's exactly what we do. Not only do we look at your investments, we look at your taxes and estate planning as well. We don't leave any stone unturned. That is what a real holistic shop does. Provide a very clear roadmap so that you know it's okay to enjoy retirement. Success is being able to sleep at night. And at the end of the day, what we provide at Asset Preservation is not only the market expertise by institutional money managers that are some of the biggest and best in the world, but we also provide complete advice. You need to make sure you have a plan. What you can expect from us is to let you know the truth about your portfolio.
Welcome back to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stewart Willis. He is president of Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax, and also our special guest, Spike Spangle, radio personality, television host, live events.
Yes,
as well.
we've got the live radio show here, 1 hour every Saturday, Sundays, KTAR, KFYI, but you hit on something, I can't get this rock out of my shoe.
Uh-oh.
Target date funds.
Yep.
They're inside our retirement plans at work.
Yep.
I understand why they were created. It's to simplify the investment process, maybe even to motivate us, because we just pick up a date, a year, and go, all right, we'll put our money all into there. But they had one of the most disastrous years last year. How do you feel, and now what does it look like when folks are using target date funds when you're doing their reviews?
Yeah,
Great
we've
question.
talked about this quite a bit on our radio show, and I think it's, because we have more time to kind of, jibber jabber.
More of me, more of you.
My
more
goodness,
of us.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing. I think the target date funds are becoming a problem. Now, look, they make it seem simple. You just say, hey, I'm going to retire in 2030, for example, and you're set it and forget about it. You just assume it's going to be okay. The problem I have with target date funds is, first of all, there's no standard for what a target date fund should be, right? It's whatever the money manager believes it should be, or whatever that custodian or mutual fund company believes it should be composed of, right? That's number one. Number two, I think they're becoming somewhat commoditized. And what I mean by that is that people are now starting to compare rates. And what they do is they look at last year and say, okay, well, which one did better? This company, company B, company C. And now it's very possible these companies are chasing returns to look better because they know their people are comparing it, right?
That's right. That's exactly what everybody does inside their retirement plans at work. They're looking for, first, the funds that are doing the best, the stock funds, the bond funds. Now they're doing a comparison with the target date funds, and that's not how they're meant to be used. They're supposed to be used for safety and to have a soft decline down to retirement.
Yeah, and I think that it's using a paradigm or a way of thinking that I don't know is valid anymore, right? Because historically, the more aggressive you are, the more equities or stocks you had. And as you got more conservative, you would shift over to bonds, which was safety in the past. Well, that's because for 35 years, interest rates have fallen. Yeah. Now that we've seen this massive interest rate spike, no pun intended.
Thank you.
It's that, it's a problem because, last year we saw this catastrophic, situation with bonds, right? We saw essentially a bond crash. And with target date funds, I'm looking at the returns of a, very big company, that's, usually pretty victorious. I'm not going to hint at the name or anything, but it's the 2030 target date fund last year was down 17.95%.
Wow. And this is supposed to be a safer fund.
Yeah, you're talking about they're going to retire in 7 years and it's down, nearly 20%. I mean, it's crazy, right?
That is.
So, at the end of the day, I think that, the set of rules that were set may not be valid. There are bond alternatives that make sense. We are in this amazing interest rate. We are for fixed interest rate environments right now. I haven't seen this really since I came into the industry. I mean, we touched it in 2007, but really we're seeing some really great product out there that can create some really nice safety ballast to replace those bonds as a nice bond alternative.
Cynthia, what was this last phase that we wanted to get through?
I'm so glad you asked, Spike. The decumulation phase. Let's talk about that, Stewart. Would that be age 62? I'm assuming?
Yeah, absolutely, because that's when your options start opening up, right? Where your income options open. For example, Social Security. You can take Social Security as early as age 62. Now, I'm not saying you should just because you can. There's a lot of downsides, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're still working, for example, and you're taking Social Security, well, remember, there's about a $21,000 earned income limitation. And for every $2 you exceed that number, there's a $1 penalty on that benefit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it doesn't make sense to be penalized so much. And remember, if you're taking it at 62, you're not getting your full benefit. You're getting what's called an actuarial reduction. So the first thing is the penalty. The second thing is the reduction, because you're taking it early. You're getting about 70% of your benefit if you take it at 62, right? And then the taxability of it. So remember, if you make more than $32,000 as an individual of provisional income, then 85% of that benefit is taxable. And most likely, you're going to exceed that if you're still working and collecting Social Security. So penalty, recapture, the taxation.
And the income limits on it. So, but there's a lot of folks out there right now saying, I want to take my Social Security as soon as possible because I'm afraid it's not going to be there. But if you're working, if you're making $100,000, $150,000, and you take that Social Security, you're not even taking a lot of that home. So then are you the proponent of wait until full retirement age or even 70?
Yeah, so at full retirement age, which is 67 for most of the people watching this, you're allowed to now file while you're still working and pay no penalty. Okay, so you're not delaying it to get what we call delayed retirement credits, but you're at least getting your full benefit. The issue there is taxation. Well, one issue is taxation. The other issue is the fact that you don't need the money as bad while you have that earned income as you will when you're done. Right? So it may make sense to wait till age 70, which is the latest you can take your Social Security, because by that point you've earned 8% a year in delayed retirement credits, so it can build and build and build for the time where you're going to need it the most. The one thing I'd also say is be careful, because the next age to worry about is 73. That's when the tax time bomb explodes. That's when you're forced to start taking IRA distributions, 401k distributions, thrift savings plan distributions, and then that converges with Social Security, and you're just now seeing the explosion of the tax time bomb. So if you're concerned that you've built up that tax time bomb, that you don't have a financial plan that also considers tax, we're going to offer you that complimentary portfolio review. All you have to do is give us a call at 833-602-7526. Even easier, pick up your phone, click on that QR code, or go to assetpreservation.com. We'd be glad to help, but you have to take action.
Stewart, thank you so much. And Spike, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, most specifically, thank you for spending time with us today on the Asset Preservation Hour. That number, one more time, 833-602-7526. Be safe, be happy, and be blessed. We look forward to seeing you back here 1 week from today on the Asset Preservation Hour with Stewart Willis.